Alright, we're going to do another tomato review today. It's going to be on this tomato right here, and this is called the Pool's Glass tomato. It's actually spelled G-L-A-S and not G-L-A-S-S. I don't know why I added that other S. It was an accident. It's actually spelled G-L-A-S. Now, there's not a whole lot of information on this tomato. I did scour the internet for information. There's really not much out there. So I did find some stuff, but I will have to put it in the description below, as well as put it on the website, and you can read about it there. And I will leave a link for this to my website once I, at the end of the year and I process the seeds. So this is basically a very rare and hard variety of tomato to get. You can't really find it anywhere. And I have this variety to review, which is very rare. So basically what it is it's a very small type of slicer tomato. It doesn't get too much bigger than what you see right here, which is actually a lot larger than it probably should be, but the sizes are very random with it. So you can see, try to show you different shades. It's a beautiful looking tomato, guys. This is absolutely perfect in every way for like slicing and salads and on a hamburger, That is beautiful, guys. Look at that. Okay. Absolutely gorgeous. Give you a look at the inside. Give you a good angle of it. Get you up close. So, let's cut a piece off and do a bricks on it. Let's get a bricks done. Very juicy. Wow. Okay, it's about a 4.5 on the bricks. It's not terribly high. But again, that doesn't mean that it's not going to be a delicious tasting tomato. So we'll have to just see what this tomato is going to taste like. So without any further ado, let's give it a go. Okay, so let's go over the details. All right, so the first thing I want to do is actually weigh this for you and just give you an idea of the weight on it, on the type of weight that you'll be seeing with this tomato. And let's turn this on. So this is the type of weight you're probably going to see on it. That looks like 3.2 ounces. That's the larger one. But more common is probably going to be this size, which is generally about the size of a Campari, and that weighs about 2 ounces. So just wanted to give you the weight on it. So I'm breaking this sheet out as a way to give you a visual indicator of it. And so I drew this up to make it a little bit easier for people to understand. I don't know if it will, but hopefully this will help you understand how I'm interpreting the flavor of the tomato and how I rate the tomato. So let's start off with the sweetness right here. The sweetness generally wasn't very high, but it was very smooth, the flavor on it. So you don't really need a high sweetness with this type of tomato. This type of tomato, for example, when you buy tomatoes in a store, do the tomatoes in the store, those commercial varieties, do they generally taste sweet? No, but they still taste edible and they still taste good. They're usually mild and kind of bland because they're not fully ripened, or they're forced ripened before they get to the supermarket. But if you take the seed from that and grow that out and you let them ripen on their own, they usually generally taste like a pretty good tomato. And they're usually not very loaded with sweetness, but they taste like a good tomato. If this is that type of tomato, it's almost like a commercial variety tomato, to be honest with you. I'm not saying it is a commercial variety. I'm saying it's almost like a commercial variety. So when it comes to the sweetness on this, it's generally, I'm going to put it somewhere maybe around 18 on the sweetness. It wasn't very high, but it wasn't very low. I could actually taste a little bit of it in there. But when we get over to the tangy part wasn't also very high. So that was as low as well, but not as low as the sweetness. So the tangy was probably like a 21, maybe a 22% from 0 to 50. It was like 25 would be in the middle, so it was a little bit lower than being roughly at 50%. So it was a pretty good balance, in other words. But it was low in tangy and sweet. Now, when it comes to the flavor, totally different story. the flavor was actually pretty strong. I actually had a very good, strong, dominant tomato flavor with this. It was a very delicious type of flavor. So I would have, it was like almost commercial type of flavor, you know, even like commercial meaning not from the store that you buy, but like when you go to a farmer's market and you're buying commercial. These people, when you buy tomatoes from the farmer's market, those are basically commercial varieties. Same thing when you go to Lowe's and you're buying big Bonnie's Big Boy or Early Girl, or those are generally commercial varieties developed for the home gardener. They're still commercial varieties, and they give you a uniformity and a very uniform type of flavor. But this is kind of like that. It's kind of falling into that Batter Boy and Big Boy and Early Girl type flavors. It's kind of going into that range. It's a gardener's variety tomato, but it's a commercial gardener's variety. Okay? As far as the flavor was actually pretty prominent. It was definitely very dominant in the whole flavor profile between the tangy and the sweet. I would say from 0 to 10, I would say that the flavor was definitely about a 6.5. So it was above 50%. It was in there. It wasn't overwhelming, but it was definitely in there. It definitely had a nice aspect to it. In fact, I was picking it up more on the roof of my mouth than I was on my tongue. So it had a real nice effect to it. Now, let's go over some of the other bullet points on this tomato profile so I can really give you a whole, a whole perspective on it. So let's go over the moisture. The moisture was absolutely delicious. It was perfect. It was definitely somewhere around a 6.5 as far as the moisture. When it comes to moisture with tomatoes, you want to be a little bit above 50%. You want to be like a 6 is probably your sweet spot right there. 6.5 is good too. If it's 8 would be too wet. You bite into it and it's gushing all over the place. That's too wet. This was definitely right in the perfect zone. The moisture was, like I said, about a 6, 6.5 maybe. And so the moisture was absolutely perfect on it. The tardy and the sour, yeah, there was a little bit of tardiness to it. And it worked in tandem with the tanginess. So the tardiness is the part that makes your mouth kind of want to pucker a little bit. And it comes and it kind of goes. So the tardiness doesn't stay around. The tanginess is what you still taste in the back of your tongue. So the tardiness, I'm going to give that a 1. So there was something there, but not very dominant and very strong. But there was a little bit of tardiness, which is good. You want a little bit of tardiness in that flavor profile because that really waters up your mouth and it kind of draws you back into that tomato again. So you want that. You want that tomato to make you salivate a little bit. Okay, as far as undertones, there were no undertones. We're going to leave that at 0. The texture was perfect. I'm going to give that probably an 8 on the texture. It was just absolutely perfect. It wasn't chalky and dry. It has firmness to it, so you can slice it up and chop it up and put it in a salad. But yet, when you eat it, it melted in your mouth. It was a perfect type of texture, and the skin on it as well. Because I should include the skin as part of the texture because a lot of times you eat these tomatoes and the skin is too hard and the rest of the tomato melts in your mouth. Now you're left with this bag of skin. This wasn't like that. The skin broke up with the flesh as you chewed it up. So it was very nice. It just melted and the skins broke up easy, so the skins weren't tough. If I was to give the texture a number, I would say the texture would probably be like an 8. It would probably be up there. Texture was definitely high on it. I like the texture a lot. And then last but not least is production. Production was average. I'm gonna go 5 with the production because I didn't get an overwhelming amount of them, but I did get a good bunch of them. And there's still more tomatoes coming out. So we'll have to see how long this plant lives into the end of the season. And on top of that, I started my tomatoes late this year, so I kind of screwed myself. So the production part of it, might be a little skewed this year because I started late. But nonetheless, I'm still got a good amount of tomatoes on it, and I'm still going to get some more. I would say it's about average, maybe slightly above average, but not too much higher than that. And that's really about it as far as the whole tomato, the whole, this whole chart on a tomato. Now, if I was to give this a rating, I'm going to actually give it a pretty high rating. If I was to rate this from 10 being the lowest and 1 being the highest, I would definitely put this up there about a 3. It's definitely up there. It's a very nice tomato. It's way up there as far as flavor profile goes. No undertones. It's got everything about it. It's almost perfect on it. I would go a little higher, but I'm really working my way through about you know, I got about 40 varieties of tomatoes sitting on my table in front of me, which you can't see. You know, I've got all these tomato varieties. I'm going through them, so I'm kind of not overdoing it as far as, you know, the flavor part of it. So I'm just kind of going through it, you know, mellow-wise, and I don't want to overdo it. And maybe towards the end of the year, I'll give an ultimate 2020 best tomato flavor or best tomato for 2020 towards the end of the year. Maybe I'll do that or something. But as of right now, this is pretty high. I'm definitely going to go with probably a 3, and 1 being the best. So it's definitely up there. Very nice tomato. I really like this tomato. I'm going to grow this again next year. And it is a very hard tomato variety to source out. And there is some history behind it. So not much, but there is something. And you can't really get any, you know, you can get the seed from a germplasm from what I understand. But I don't know what the PI numbers are or anything like that. So there's just nothing out there really on it. And that's it. That's basically your tomato review for the Pools Glas tomato. Again, it's Pools Glas, Glas, not ASS like I wrote it. That was a mistake. But there it is. That is your tomato review for the Pools Glas. That's and what I'll do is I'll leave the information in the description. You can read about it there. And you could also visit my website and you can read about it there if you don't see what you want to see in the... Because a lot of times I make changes on if I need to add something to the description. A lot of times I'll do it on my website and I don't update the description of my video. So you might want to visit the website and see if there's any updates to the actual listing itself. There might be, I might come up with new information and add it long after you're watching this video. So just keep that in mind. You may want to visit the website and just see if the information is still updated or the same. And I will leave a link to the page for this tomato in the description below, and you can get to it right from there. All right, so don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care.